everybody, and welcome back to Barely Filtered. Today, we are joined with Erin Claire Jones. She is a leading voice in human design. So this is not horoscopes and astrology. This is something different. It's a system that helps us understand how we're wired to make decisions, communicate, and thrive. And I'll let her speak, obviously, more to what specifically it is, because I'm also new to human design myself. She's the founder of Human Design Blueprint, which has brought personalized insight to tens of thousands of people across more than 160 countries. Erin is also the author of How Do You Choose? And she makes human design approachable and practical for everyday life. I'm really excited because she has my birth information here, my location, birth time, and date, just the same information you need for a horoscope. And I think she's going to tell a little bit about me, but I'll try to keep it broad so that everybody gets something out of this. And then at the end, we can talk a little bit about how you can find her and how you can have your human design read as well. Thank you for being here, Erin.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
So, I guess let's start from the very beginning. What is human design?
So I think you did a great job, but human design is a system based on your time, date, and place of birth, like astrology, that really reveals your energetic blueprint on how you're wired to thrive in every part of your life. I always say it is equal parts mystical and practical. It is, of course, mystical. It's based on our birth information, but the information it outputs is just incredibly applicable to day-to-day life. Like, how do you make decisions? How do you find your way into the next opportunity? What strengths do you carry? What are the things that are most likely to take you off track? Like, what are some tips to use as a mother or entrepreneur or any of the things? So I feel like more than anything, human design just gives us permission to be ourselves in every area of our life and gives us a lot of practical tools to do it.
Okay. I mean, I'm an astrology kind of junkie, and in recent years, I've kind of, I've come up against a lot of rebuttal from people who I think would say the same thing about human design, which is just like, how would we possibly know this about somebody? Like, where does this information come from?
Yeah, it's a great question. My answer is probably going to be an unsatisfying one. I think it blows my mind. Like, how in the world could we know this much information about ourselves based on our time, date, and place of birth? Like, it's not a thing that I think I can actually totally metabolize or grasp. So, my approach to this is that what matters to me is not whether human design is true, but whether it's useful. And so, I'm here to just share kind of an interesting framework to think about who we are and how we operate and see if it actually resonates. And my experience now working with it for over a decade and with many tens of thousands of people is that it is just so undeniable how helpful it is.
Yeah.
How people hear this thing and they're like, oh my God, you just put words to a thing that I felt my entire life and I've never had the words for, the permission to really own. And I will say, in my experience, I worked with so many skeptics, and I feel like the people that are the most skeptical end up loving it the most.
Yeah.
Because it is just so specific that they're like, Erin, have you been following me around for years? How would you know? And I'm like, it blows my mind too. So I don't know. I don't know how we know this much. It is crazy to me. And yet it just seems to be so specific and so useful. What is your experience with astrology? How do you respond to that question?
Well, what I usually say, for astrology, it makes sense to me. I'll try to put it in to more of a practical framework. We're all made out of these four, earth, wind, earth, air, fire, and water. And I think people kind of understand that, all matter is made up of those things. And since we are matter on earth, we also are made up of those. And I don't know, to me, I feel like that it feels a little more scientific because I think people can relate to, the fact that we're made up of the same elements that the earth is made up of. So, yeah. But I guess human design is it also working with water, air, fire, and earth?
Not as much, no, but astrology does play a role in human design as well as many other systems. But I will say one thing to know about human design, and I think this is probably true of astrology too, is that human design is not predictive. It's not going to look at somebody's chart and be like, you're going to have kids at this age and you're going to marry this person or do this thing for work. I think of it more as helping us to understand our operating system. How are we wired to move through life and how that manifests and what we're drawn to. We have no idea. That's, we'll discover that, but it more helps us know, how can we move through life with a lot more flow and a lot less resistance.
Right. Yeah. I feel like I know astrology is not predictive, but when you look at people's death charts also, it's interesting to see that their life followed a pattern that in a lot of ways was kind of already blueprinted out in terms of like, just like number of children maybe that you have. I know that, that like in your fifth house, the number of planets you have there is supposed to indicate how many children you'll have in this life. And I found that to check out for like almost every person that I've known so far. So
oh my God, I have to have you look at mine.
Everybody that. Yeah. But enough about astrology. So for human design, how do people use this practically in their life? And for somebody who's just getting started with it, what's a good place to start?
Yeah. So in human design, there are 5 different types. And this is just kind of the first distinction. So there are 5 different types. And then there's just like so much more nuance underneath it. So the chart that I'm looking at for you, like, yes, you're a certain type and you have certain characteristics, but like, it's not like I've seen this chart before. Like every chart is so unique. But if you want to get started, you guys can look up your type at humandesignblueprint.com. You'll see a really wild looking chart. Don't worry about that. I would just look at the kind of the characteristics that are listed and probably the type to be first. In terms of how people use it, I mean, it runs the gamut. I think so many people use human design to find their way into a better career. I feel like I work with a lot of people that feel really misaligned in their work and don't know why. And I think human design, and this is what my book is really about, is like, how can you actually design a way of working that is much more suitable for your design and how you work? A lot of people, including me, use it in parenting in terms of knowing what we need to make parenting sustainable in our own design, but also like understanding our kids. You know, my 2 daughters have designs that are wildly opposite than mine. So I kind of, and they're very young, but I feel like I've walked into this journey of being a mother, having like no expectation they'll be anything like me. And so I sit with a lot of families that are just trying to better understand like why their kid is operating a certain way or how they could better support them. And then the 2 other applications that I see very often, one is with couples. I feel like I sit with a lot of couples that are feeling so annoyed with each other because they're just not the same. It's like, why aren't they making decisions fast like me? Or why aren't they doing this like me? And I think human design just reveals how different they are and how they can better support each other. And then I also finally work with a lot with teams.
You work with teams, like how they can kind of interact better and more easy with each other. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Interesting.
So, I think it's the applications are endless, but I feel like those are all really powerful examples of just places where it's like, if I'm trying to be a thing that I'm not, it's probably going to be really hard. If I'm expecting someone to be something they're not, also going to be really hard. If I really understand my wiring, understand their wiring, like things are likely to flow so much more easily.
Right. It reminds me of that quote by Einstein that's like, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll go its whole life believing it's stupid. And I do think, especially just the way society kind of celebrates a very certain type of like early bird gets the worm, and you know, the person who's working the most hours and like seemingly the hardest, they get a lot of praise. And I think a lot of times people go through life feeling kind of down on themselves because maybe they're not like a naturally early riser, or they have trouble like sticking with one job for a long period of time. I know that's like something for me. I'm kind of somebody who gets really passionate about something and then oftentimes like moves on to some other passion. And for a while I was feeling like, oh man, this isn't a good way to operate. I should be sticking with, the job I went to college for, that I spent all those hours studying. But as I've gotten older, I'm realizing like, you know what? No, that would have made me so miserable if I was still doing that job. Like, who am I living for? To make my dad happy, or do I want to be happy?
Totally. Yeah.
So, okay, let's talk about me for a second. What does my chart say about my job? Should I be doing something different or my career?
Okay. So, you are a generator in human design. Okay. So there are like a bajillion pieces that speak to your work. Let me just start with your type. So if you guys look up your design at humandesignblueprint.com, you see you're also a generator. This will also be true for you. So it basically means that you are somebody who's got a lot of energy and capacity to make things happen. When you're like genuinely lit up by something, your energy is like through the roof, and you also lift up everybody around you. And so it means that like, very simply, like the more satisfied you are on a day-to-day basis, the more energy you have, the more an uplifting presence you are, the more you magnetize your way. So I would say one thing just to kind of consider often is like, what is the thing that feels the most satisfying to have done? Like, is it interviewing people on the podcast? Is it creating this thing? Like, and so if you're in a job where you are doing it just because somebody else wants you to do it, it probably will become quite clear that like is not actually what lights you up at all.
Right.
You know, and you're somebody that just says, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you know, I think, okay, I'm just going to play devil's advocate. I can hear like my dad and my brother-in-law and people who I know will question this say to me like, okay, well, you know, not every day in your job is going to make you feel lit up. So
that's right.
If I went around and I was like, I'm a generator, if I'm not feeling good, then I need to move on. I feel like I wouldn't stick with anything for very long.
Well, here's what I'd say is the goal is not to be 100% lit up by every single thing that you do, but it's to be like primarily satisfied.
Okay.
Where what the marker of alignment for you is when you drop into bed and you feel delightfully spent. You're like, I used up my energy today in a way that felt so good. Some of those things might have been really hard. Some of those things might have been really challenging, but like, I feel so satisfied that I did them.
Right.
You know, whereas if you're not fully expending your energy, you're probably going to get into bed and feel like a little bit restless, a little depleted, like that sense of like, I haven't really used it up today.
So isn't that everybody though? Or I know there's manifestors, right? Or manifesting generator. What are the differences? And doesn't everybody want to feel satisfied at the end of the day or no?
There are different markers of success. Like for generators, they are like meant to just use up their energy. Like you are somebody gifted with actually a lot of energy. And so like using it up is what brings you satisfaction there. And you are somebody that really has the capacity to kind of go deep in something when you're really excited. There are types like mine, projectors, that aren't really here to be consistent doers. Like our energy really like ebbs and flows throughout the day, and we need a lot of space and rest and pause. And so, you know, the marker for us of alignment is when we feel really kind of recognized and seen for our perspective and our insights and like how we see the world.
Oh.
You know, there are other types like manifestors that are really, really good at starting things. Their gift is not in completing or sustaining anything they've begun. It's really in like getting a new idea started. And so often they make themselves wrong for not completing everything they started when like that just really isn't what they're meant to do.
Right. Okay. That's a manifestor?
That's a manifestor.
I feel like I'm a manifestor. Are you sure I'm a generator?
Okay. Can I tell you, can I give you some other pieces about your design?
Okay.
Mostly because the type piece is amazing and also just the first piece.
Oh, okay.
So a few other things I would say is one of your gifts in your design is the gift of creativity. And I think of this because you're somebody who just needs a lot of freshness. And I can imagine this is like in your career and life where it's like you need things to like keep changing and evolving. And that could be, you know, what you're interested in, but it also could be like your living room, you know, or how you dress or what you wear. Like you are somebody that has to feel so creatively expressed in your life. And it's likely that the outlet for that expression will keep evolving over time. And so another question for you in your work is also like, is this a thing that allows my creative, authentic, full expression right now? And again, my guess is that will keep changing.
Right. Okay.
Have you noticed that? Do you feel that?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I was somebody like growing up who I would change around my bedroom furniture daily because I needed it to like just look like a different space.
Yeah, you need that. And so like, I just think there's like such a need for freshness. There's also, you're somebody, and this comes from a part of your human design called definition. Just for those that are familiar, this is called a triple split. You are somebody that needs a lot of freedom in your day to day. Like you are somebody that might struggle working in the same environment with the same team day in, day out. Like it is through like moving your energy around and being free and being in different environments and working with different people that actually like brings you satisfaction. So I would say you're not really wired for like an office job that is requiring you to be in the same space consistently. But having more freedom in your days is probably going to bring the most satisfaction. And you might feel trapped at times. And it's often just a signal that you've got to move.
Okay. So how many of these are there? Because I do have I have an app, I think, a human design app, and I don't remember the definition one, but there's a lot of them, right? Like we all have so many different parts.
There's so many different pieces. So that definition piece, there are 5 possible definitions, but I make these kind of custom guides for people. That's been kind of the signature offering of our business. And in that guide, there are 400,000 possible variations of it.
Oh my God.
I know. So people are just really unique.
And there's just some kind of like program or something that is helping us figure out, because that's a lot to sift through.
It is. Yeah. We like actually plug directly into kind of like the NASA API to generate the charts. And then I analyze the charts. But let me just share one more piece about your design and then we can like keep moving because I'm curious how and if this lands. So you have what we call a 6-2 profile. So I have this too. If anybody is looking at their chart and they see 6-2 listed next to their profile, this will be true for you too. the first piece is that you're somebody who really needs time and space alone, according to your human design. There's a very kind of hermetic nature. It's not all the time, but like time and space to just like do your own thing and be in your own flow is just often pretty integral. I know that's not always easy to get as a parent. But the piece that's related to career is that you're somebody that just carries these like innate gifts that you can't probably always put words to or explain. You just have your own way of doing things that just tends to work. And so when it comes to work, you're very much meant to follow the things that come easily and naturally to you, the things that you doubt yet you could even get paid for. The twos are like, how can I build a career around this? Like, this is just, I'm doing this anyways. And yet like, that's exactly what they're meant to get paid for. So when people have this profile, they're wondering what to do next in their career. My question is often, one, what is the thing that comes very easy to you that others tend to recognize in you? And two, when you have space to yourself to be in your own flow, what do you feel drawn to doing? What is the thing? So curious how and if that feels relevant to your career and your life.
Yeah, I mean, definitely talking and like going deep with people. I really enjoy that. And I have said in the past, like I would do podcasting for free. Just because it is something that I really enjoy. But like everything, I feel like, you know, I don't enjoy all elements of I have to make sure I don't enjoy all elements of podcasting sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I have to make sure that I'm talking about the type of things I want to talk about, or like interviewing the right kind of people, and even just like the admin side of it. You know, I think people think they need to find a job that they like all sides of. And while I like this part, like, do I like scheduling? No. Do I like editing? No. Do I, you know, so yeah, for sure. And like, but one thing that I've always really enjoyed is like making a space look beautiful and kind of like curating a home and things like that. So I haven't made a career out of that at all. I've shared it a little bit on my Instagram, but that's something that like at home I like to do that I feel like I've always enjoyed, things like that.
And those are just things to pay attention to, like as potentially a next venture exploration at some point. I have a friend of mine who has the same thing, and she's like starting a career in interior design because she's like, I'm doing it anyways. I might as well do it for other people.
Why not?
So why not? So, and it doesn't mean that we have to monetize everything and make careers out of everything. But I think with the twos in particular, it is like the things that they're like, I just can't help but do this.
Yeah.
And then the other part of your profile, which I'm curious how and if it resonates, is that you're somebody who you're in your 30s. Is that right? Mm-hmm. So you basically are meant to live your life in 3 phases. This is 6 in your profile. So it means the first 30 years of your life were just meant to be trial and error galore. It wasn't really time to like, check. It wasn't really time to like figure anything out, but just to like throw it all against the wall and see what sticks and just experiment, you know, and just like see what works, see what doesn't. 30 to 50 is often a time when you're able to kind of pull back a little bit and just get more perspective, like process all the things that you've been through. And you might find that it's a time that more and more people are coming to you for your wisdom, for your perspective. And you are somebody who's actually meant to hit your prime career-wise and beyond when you turn 50.
50. Okay. Well, that's a lot of time I have to chill in the meantime.
and this doesn't mean that you've got to wait until 50. It just means that
I'll wait.
Yes, totally. It just means that like it's meant to keep getting better and better and better. And one of the gifts of your design is like you're just here to be a role model. Like you are here to inspire others through the way that you're living your life, you know, through the ways that you've learned to embrace and accept yourself, through like the ways that you process all the things that you've been through. Like you're somebody who inspires others so much by like just sharing your story. It might not be like what you studied or what you read, but like what you experienced. Yeah. And so often 50 and beyond is like, it's just so integrated within yourself that people just feel it. Yeah. And you inspire.
I kind of had like a premonition of that just because I feel like there's a movement now with postmenopausal women where like in the past it was like, okay, these women are expired and you don't really even see much about them in like movies or even just like what we make products for, and like postmenopausal women are like put on a shelf. And I feel like I would like to be eventually some kind of proponent for just, I don't know, for postmenopausal women, but also women going through menopause. Like that's also something that hasn't really been talked about much. And I'm not quite there yet, but I can feel it that it's gonna be here sooner than I know, and I am not ready to be expired. I know that when I'm 50, I'm not gonna want society to think that I'm old. So just like rebranding older women.
I love it, and like, and I'm so excited for that because it is, I don't know. I feel like when I tell people this, when they have this in their profile, there's just like such a sense of relief where it's not like, it doesn't make the time that we're living in now. I have this profile too, like unimportant. It's actually like the most important, but it is really exciting to be like, oh, it's just meant to keep getting better and better and better.
Yeah.
And like what
That's
I've
always
witnessed,
nice to hear.
It is. And I think what I've witnessed in sessions with people is that I sit with some people in their 40s and they have this profile and you can watch their whole life transform. Like they just become so intolerant of anything that is not fully aligned because I feel like there is this sense of like, oh, I really am here to be a model for others. So like, let me just like get my own stuff in check because I know it's going to have an impact.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Well, I mean, is there any profile that's like, that would tell you that like, oh, your best years are behind you? That sounds horrible.
There's nobody that like peaks, of course, at 30. I think in so many ways, for most of us, I think that probably it's going to meant to keep getting better. I think for the sixes in particular, like they're just here to be the role models and teachers. So like their life experience, their embodiment just like really can be inspiring for other people. And I think that's part of why 50 plus is like when they're kind of meant to come out and share their gifts, like in a bigger and broader way than ever before.
Yeah. That's interesting because I do see the parallels with like my astrology chart, which I know very well. You're like kind of a 6 to me sounds like a Sagittarius rising because Sagittarius is that same thing, like role model, the teacher, the one who like has a life experiences and then shares them and like the wise sage kind of. So it's interesting to see how I haven't heard anything yet that goes against my astrology.
Yeah, they seem like my experience is that they just are really complementary. Like they just speak different language, but often towards similar things.
Right.
So I can share more about your design, but I also can stop there. So you tell me what would be most useful.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about, you can mention my design too, not because, I mean, I am interested, but let's talk a little bit about like, what are some of the other elements of our personality or that make us up that people might be interested in and how can they use it in a practical way? Okay, great. So let's just kind of briefly go through the types because I know I kind of skimmed over them so people can, get something for them. So again, you can look up your chart at humandesignblueprint.com. There are 5 different types. The types will speak to how we can best use our energy and also how to create opportunities for ourselves. So generators like you, like I said, are very natural doers, people that have a lot of energy and resource to make things happen. The key lesson for them is to really kind of be discerning around where they put their energy and not overextend just because they are capable and just because people want things out of them and to really kind of trust their gut to know what they're actually available for and that, and also to trust that doing that is not only a thing that conserves their energy well, but also benefits everybody. Because there's really like nothing that beats being around a lit up generator. When they're lit up by what they're doing, like I said, the energy just like ripples out and lights up everybody around them. Yeah. And I can imagine probably on the flip side, does it feel a little punishing to be around a generator who's not in a good space? Yes, it can feel very deflating. It can make you feel sluggish. It can make you feel frustrated. So like how generators feel about their day to day and their work has such a big impact. Okay. And so, I am married to a generator. I've seen this very much. So again, knowing that like you carving out time for the things you enjoy, whether they are work related or not, just makes such a difference. Okay. And when it comes to opportunities kind of in your life, you are somebody who's meant to be very magnetic. You are not really meant to kind of chase after things or get really lost in your head about what you should do next, but rather you're meant to just see what shows up in your world, what naturally sparks your gut, what you feel drawn towards and kind of follow those natural pings. Yeah. So for you, it's not about forcing. It's just like, what is showing up? How does my body respond to what's showing up? And how can I just let that guide me? Yeah. I can see already how this information is beneficial because I think a lot of people are like, okay, who cares if somebody tells me about me? Now what? But I can exactly. But I feel like we waste so much energy and anxiety. Just like, like if I had known this in my 20s, just like your worrying is not going to help you get to your solution or what job you should have any sooner. Yes. I probably would have, enjoyed myself a little bit more and like relaxed, not stressed so much. I think that is such a beautiful way to talk about it because I do just think we like, and maybe not waste, but we just like use up a lot of energy trying to be a lot of things that we're not. Yeah. And I think human design just kind of anchors us back into like, what is the most natural way for us to operate? And I think just
life feels better and makes us feel more free. And we have a lot more compassion towards other people too, because we don't expect them to be like us anymore.
Yeah.
So then we've got manifesting generators, which are similar in many ways to generators, but these people are very, and you might identify with this as well, like very multi-passionate. These are my clients that are like, I have a podcast, I'm a coach, I'm like opening a juice bar. Like they are just meant to be so many things over the course of their life. And they often have been made to feel like they're scattered, like they're doing too much, like they can't choose just one thing when like they're multidimensional by nature. You know, I remember sitting with a dad whose daughter was a manifesting generator. And he was like, Erin, like she won't choose one sport. She's like playing lacrosse and softball and basketball and volleyball. Like she has to just choose a thing. And I looked at her design. I was like, she's kind of meant to try them all. Like what you perceive as flakiness is very much her honoring her like very multidimensional nature. So manifesting generators are meant to pivot and change course and be many things.
Yeah.
And they, like you, like generators, are meant to kind of let things come to them and just see what naturally sparks their excitement and their gut feeling.
Okay. Is there a design in which somebody is meant to chase their passion or dream or be more proactive?
Yes. So manifestors are the ones, like I said, that are meant to kind of start new ideas, but not always complete them. These are very kind of disruptive, innovative people that are just here to like do their own thing and tread a path that's never been walked before. They are meant to initiate. As soon as kind of like an urge arises within them to create something or pitch a role, they're just meant to go after it. And like that also means relationships too. Like they're meant to make the first move. And so they're the only type that's kind of meant to just like trust that inner urge and just go after it. Which is so funny because I feel like so often I'll sit with manifestors who have been so afraid of initiating in their life. And yet when they think back to all their most meaningful relationships and opportunities, they were the ones that like they initiated on some whim.
Interesting.
And then there are projectors. Projectors, like I said, are kind of leaders, guides, teachers, not here to do all the doing. I think a big lesson for us projectors is like disentangling our worth from how hard we work and how much we do, and allowing a lot more space and rest and pause into our days and lives. And we are meant to be invited. When it comes to the biggest opportunities, it's not just what lights us up. It's like who sees us clearly and is like, hey, you're the one to do this. And as much as I sometimes resist the need for an invitation, when I look back at all the biggest opportunities in my life, it's all been from like somebody spotting me and being like, you're meant to do this. You know, from my book to discovering human design to my husband, like all of it. And so again, I still fight against it. And yet I'm reminded over and over again, like that is how things emerge for me.
So you're a projector.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then the final type is a reflector. Reflectors are the rarest type, just 1% of the population. These people are incredibly sensitive to their environment. So they're kind of always taking it and magnifying the spaces that they're in. And they just have such a powerful, objective perspective on life. But the best opportunities for them emerge by being in the right spaces. So if they're looking for the next career move or next job, the best thing they could do is plant themselves in spaces they enjoy. Oh. So it could be like a cafe, a coffee shop, online community. Like it is being in the right space that like things just unfold really naturally.
Interesting. Okay. I'm excited to plug in like both my kids, my boyfriend, just everybody in my life, because it is so, it sounds like it can be super useful.
So useful. And like one other piece I'd share, I'm going to have to go through all the options, but there's another piece that it talks about is around decision making, which I think is one of the most useful pieces.
Yeah.
And to use you as an example, you are what we call an emotional authority. You and I are similar, even though we're different types, which means that as much as you might have a strong gut feeling about a decision, you are somebody who's not meant to be very impulsive. You're meant to sleep on things and feel into things and give yourself a beat, because often if you say yes immediately, you might wake up the next day and be like, why did I commit to that thing? So
I feel that deeply, but I thought it was just related to the fact that I feel like I'm like 4 different people throughout the month, between like my luteal phase, my follicular phase, my menstrual phase. Like I feel like hormones are what guide me. And so now that I know a lot about female hormones, I'm always like, I'm careful about what I say yes to at certain times of the month, because I know later on I might not want to do that anymore. But again, it's like the human design is confirming also like my chemical makeup, because not all women are quite as sensitive, to their hormone fluctuations.
Yeah. And you're just like, you're a deep feeler. Like you're here to have like emotional highs and emotional lows, and you're just like here to experience it all. But the key for you when it comes to decision making is to not choose on the high or the low, to kind of let your feelings settle a little bit before you say yes. And so what you said though, I think is so right on, that I feel like human design often confirms things that we've always known, we just often haven't trusted.
Right.
Yeah. But there are some people that are meant to be super fast in decisions. There's such a wide range here, but it was so helpful for me to learn that I needed to give myself a beat because again, I resisted all the time. And yet I have so often found myself in situations I regretted because I rushed.
Because you rushed it. Yeah, for sure. So what are other
options?
Yeah, options. So was that because I'm
an emotional authority? It's another part of your chart.
Okay. Are there like 100 other ones you can be?
No, there's 7 authorities.
7.
No,
okay.
I can talk about them briefly. Yeah. So there's emotional authorities. Me and you sleep on it. Give yourself a beat. 24 to 48 hours. See what stays true over time. Also, I would say for you and I, like we're not looking for 100% certainty about decisions. Like 80% is good. Okay. It's like we mostly feel good. There are some people that are sacral authorities. This is about, these are people that have a really strong gut response and they're meant to trust their gut feeling in the moment. Oh. As soon as that gut feeling comes, they can just act on it. And a really powerful way to access it, and I'll actually use this with you too, because you are a gut driven person, even though you've got to sleep on things, is these people often can get clear on their gut feeling by being asked a very specific question. So like, for example, if you were feeling unsure about what to do next, I probably wouldn't ask you like, what do you want to do next? Because you might just be like, I don't know, so many options. But if I was to ask you like, do you want to continue the podcast? Like, do you want to do this thing? Do you want to go out for dinner, cook at home? Like, if I'm able to pose things in a very specific way, you might find that you have a pretty immediate visceral response.
Okay. So like yes or no questions.
That's right. And specific options. And
so when you say like, I'm meant to sit on things, but I also lead with my gut. Why do you say that?
So there's just so much nuance on the chart. It means that because you're a generator, you're somebody who's very gut driven. Like you just are meant to see how things respond in your life. But because you're an emotional authority, you're not meant to trust that gut feeling in the moment. You're meant to trust your gut feeling over time.
Sneaky.
Annoying. So if I was like making a decision with you, I might ask you in the moment, like, are you excited? And you might be like, yes. I'll be like, I'm going to ask you the same question tomorrow and the next day.
Okay.
If the answer is consistent for you, then you can act on it.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Oh, I like that. Okay. Are there more? Okay. So I know, like, how many elements to human design are they in? Like, what are the most important ones so that people are not getting overwhelmed? Because I'm already kind of dizzy with like
all the things.
I don't know which ones to worry about the most or to give the most consideration to. I
would say the most important ones to start with are your type, strategy, and authority.
Type, strategy, and authority. Have we talked about strategy yet?
I did weave strategy in. Strategy is connected to your type. So basically is the piece around how you're meant to create opportunities. Okay. So like for you, it's about letting things come to you. For me, it's about waiting to be invited.
Okay.
So
and then the reflector has to be in the right place.
Right. Correct. Manifestors have to initiate. Sorry? Manifestors have to initiate.
Have to initiate. Okay.
And then the authority piece that we just talked about is how you make decisions. So if you start anywhere, start with those 3. And that's what my book is about, because honestly, just those 3 pieces can totally change your life. There's like a bajillion things beyond that, but I really don't think more is better in human design, because I think when those 3 pieces are integrated into your life, like life just tends to flow a lot more easily. So there's how you best process with others. There's like your shadow areas, there are your strengths, but like, again, like you said, it can be a lot of information at first.
Yeah.
So I think just starting with type, strategy, and authority is so rich in information and so actionable.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about the shadow part though, because that's interesting to me. Because I mean, we all have shadows, obviously. And I think probably if we're aware of them, then maybe we can let it not define us fully, right? Mm-hmm. Are there a lot of different types of shadows that people have in human design, or are there only a couple?
Well, when I think about shadows, there are kind of 9 big potential ones. These come from a part of our chart called the open centers. Do you want me to just share one of yours to see how it lands?
Oh,
and
so you can have more than one shadow?
Mm-hmm.
So does some people have more shadows than other people?
Yes, but here's the thing. The areas that, and shadows is not the perfect word for it. I would say there are our biggest lessons. There are areas of challenge and also areas of extraordinary growth. Okay. And so it basically is an area where that we're kind of meant to ultimately turn into wisdom and then share with other people.
Okay. So in astrology, it reminds me of when you have a square. Okay. Like, cause that's like, if you have a lot of squares in your chart, people think it's a bad thing, but it's oftentimes exactly what you said. Like that's it's going to force you to grow.
Yes. And like be the wisest person, you know? So when I see a lot of that in a chart where there are a lot of those areas open or whatever. I'm just like, oh, there's like so much capacity for wisdom. And I think to your initial point, I think awareness of them makes all the difference. Because I think once we really learn that we're like, oh, this is a potential shadowy area of my life. Now that I'm aware of it, I can be so much more aware when it pops up and also move through it so much faster.
Okay.
So one example for you is that one of the potential challenges in your design is just holding on to things for too long. Holding on to old relationships, jobs, homes, ways of being, just because they feel secure and familiar and not because they're actually so right for you.
Okay.
And so a big lesson for you is just like learning how to let go. And, you know, the gift of that is you're here to teach others how to let go too. You know, to let go of habits and relationships and people and places that are no longer good for them. Mm-hmm. And so the shadow for you is becoming very kind of fixed and rigid. And the wisdom is being actually quite adaptable and fluid with the way you move through the world.
Interesting. Okay. How many shadows do I have? Do I have more than the average person or?
You've got 3.
Okay. Now you have to tell me, what are my other 2 shadows?
Okay. So, another potential shadow. This comes from what we call your open mind. The gift of it is that you're somebody who's incredibly open-minded. You are really meant to be able to kind of hold the subtleties and nuances of issues in a way that a lot of people can't, where you're like, oh, I see your perspective and yours. This shadowy expression for you is trying to be very fixed and certain in the way that you see the world, where you're like, I've got to have an opinion. I've got to back it up. Like, I've got to like appear smarter. Maybe you associate intelligence with certainty. Mm-hmm. Like your gift very much is uncertainty. It's not the black and white, it's the gray. So I would say the wisdom for you is just like seeing things very subtly and like in very nuanced ways. And the shadow for you is like trying to be certain, to be smart, and perhaps being uncomfortable admitting that you don't know something.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Do you feel that one?
Yeah, I do feel that one, but I also feel that that's one that like I tackled pretty early in life.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's interesting. Like some of our shadows can be things that really aren't our problems anymore.
Exactly, because we've grown through them, and again, they've become areas of wisdom. Like the thing is, like that's such an amazing gift for you because you can hold the subtleties of issues in a way that most people can't, and offer just such a unique perspective on things. So on the other side of that defensive, attempting to be certain nature is so much wisdom to share. You know, so it is around moving through it. And then the last one for you comes from what we call your open head, and it means that you're somebody who's very easily inspired, but also very easily scattered. Like you might find that your energy gets pulled in a bajillion different directions and kind of ping pongs. And then you might end the day and you're like, I don't really know what I did. And like, you might also talk to somebody who's excited and then you get excited and then you commit and then you walk away and you're like, I don't actually want to do that. So this like very easily inspired nature can pull you in a lot of directions. So the wisdom for you is just being so discerning and select about where you put your energy. And I would say that you're somebody who doesn't do well with no structure. Like I would not say a lot of structure, but like minimal structure. So what I would recommend is like starting the day and be like, what are like 2 to 3 things I could do today that would give me the most satisfaction?
Right.
Like what are the things I could do today that I would like land in bed? I'd be like, yes, I did that. It could be like laundry or doing a thing with my kid or whatever, recording this podcast. So just having some anchors throughout your day can help prevent you from feeling so scattered.
That's interesting. And I also see how like parts of our design sort of help the other one out, or it goes hand in hand. It's like, okay, so I can be scattered and flighty and be inspired, and be inspired easily. But then also I have the part, if I know that part about myself that should take a beat before I make decisions, like then now it kind of checks off both of those boxes. So if you know about your design and you work on one part, it's going to help other parts of your chart.
That's exactly right. And that's also why I said like beginning with type, strategy, and authority is the key, because like when you do that, it will help you navigate these other pieces without even knowing it.
Okay, cool. So on your website, can people just plug in their like birth information and then right away you'll get a chart back? Or is it something that you email?
So right away you'll get a chart back, and you'll also get actually just like some high level insights about your chart.
Okay.
Around like kind of what all those high level things mean. And then you can also, if you want to go deeper, then you can kind of get a custom guide that really dives into it all, and also dives into it all in like a really accessible way. Like I'm not being like, this number means this. It's more like, this is what you need to know about your chart to live your best life.
Okay. What about compatibility?
Gosh, something that we are building right now. Compatibility, I think is a really cool piece to look at. I guess my belief around this is that human design is not meant to tell us who we can or cannot be with.
Right.
It just lets us know how we can best be with the people that we choose.
Right.
So I would say once you feel drawn to somebody, once you've slept on somebody, like slept on a relationship, know that it's right.
Slept with or on.
Weird. Sorry, totally phrased very strangely, but you understand. But I think once you've assessed that somebody's right, then looking at their chart to be like, okay, how can we best be in a relationship? That's really my recommendation. And it gives us so much cool information around how to layer these charts on top of each other to better understand each other.
Right. Well, a lot of people in our lives we didn't choose, at least not in this lifetime. Maybe I chose them before I was born or something. But just better understanding your parents and your kids. Like, it's so crazy how just even this morning, like my dad, I think I mentioned my dad before because I'm triggered by him today because he's, we're still triggered by these people in our lives who've been triggering us since we were born. And it would be interesting for me to see his chart and just see okay, how can I better support how I deal with him? Because the fact is we can't really change people. And also on the way here, I was listening to Mel Robbins' Let Them book. Everybody's making fun of that now. Like the Let Them thing is kind of like a little overplayed, but it's so true in a lot of ways. It's like people are made up in these very specific ways. And while they can change, like if they know their chart or they know these things about themselves, maybe they can change, but we can't change other people. There's so much energy that I think I've wasted in my life. And I know a lot of other people too, just by trying to manipulate other people's behavior.
Totally.
So this is a nice way to stay in your own lane. There's plenty of ways you can work on yourself.
Yes. And I do think, like you said, also for me in my relationships, I think it just brought a lot more compassion where I'm like, oh, I see exactly why this is so hard for me, why this part of them. And I feel like in doing that, I just it kind of depersonalizes the whole thing where it's just oh, we're just different. This is a way that I can better support them. So I find the application of human design to relationships is just one of the most useful pieces.
Okay, awesome. And then I guess just my last kind of general question, is this based on astrology? Is it based on the stars or where is this information coming from?
Yes, it is based on the stars, but it pulls from a lot of different systems that have been around a lot longer than human design. So astrology, the I Ching, Kabbalah, the chakra system, all these things kind of combine and play a role. They do all manifest in very unique ways in human design in that you can't look and be there's a direct line to astrology where you're everybody with a Sagittarius rising is a projector. It's more that the information is complementary, but they all kind of weave together to give us this blueprint to how we operate best.
Okay, interesting. And this is an Eastern philosophy or where did this originate from?
It's a channeled system.
I don't know what that means.
Oh my God. I love that you don't know what it means. So, it's been around since 1987. So it's relatively new. The founder was a man named Ra Uhuruhu, who's no longer alive. And he basically had this really mystical experience where he was walking home.
He literally channeled. This is a lot of information for one person to channel.
I don't even understand. And the thing is we've just, skimmed the surface, but he basically had this mystical experience where he heard a voice, the voice said it's time to work. For 8 days and 8 nights, he received all this information. And again, we have just skimmed the surface here. And then he spent the next 20 years building it out. And so it was this idea, this really just gives us a blueprint to our operating system in a way that is really unique and really practical. But I will say that the way he shared it was not always the most accessible. And so I think that it kind of limited human design's expansion. And I feel human design has really taken off in the past 5 years, because I feel there are a lot of people, me being one of them, but there are many sharing human design in a way that's a little bit less dogmatic. That's more just this is a really interesting way to think about who we are and how we operate, and is a little bit less alienating. So it is, and this is also because I work with so many skeptics and the origins are so mystical and so channeled. I think that this is what I always ground the conversations in, is that what matters most to me is not whether it's true, but whether it's useful. And so having people listen through that lens to see if there's a gem that actually feels supportive and useful to their life. Right.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to believe a lot of woo-woo stuff, but I think maybe if for somebody who's a skeptic, I wouldn't lead with it was channeled by a man in 1987. So totally. I see why we saved that till the end. But I mean, I'm totally on board with it. A Course in Miracles was channeled. I mean, so many scriptures were channeled, and it makes sense that the guy who got all the information might not be the best one to also like disseminate it. And,
Totally.
because he's only one person and he had a design too, and maybe his wasn't to spread the word perfectly.
No, he was the manifester. He was just here to kind of provoke and catalyze new things, which he did so well.
Awesome. Okay, well, this is so fun. I know that people are probably like rolling their eyes and they want to know their chart and not mine. So where can they find you?
So you can find me at Erin Claire Jones and Human Design Blueprint on Instagram. Our website is humandesignblueprint.com, and you can get your custom guide there, and you can use the discount code Barely Filtered. And then also I have a new book out, How Do You Choose? And that book is very much how human design can be practically applied to your work, your relationships, and beyond. So that's a really great resource to have as well, to see how you can actually use it in your life.
Yay. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.